China is a huge country for roller coasters. They have the most coasters out of any country in the world, and with that comes a whole load of garbage and a handful of elite coasters. Despite their 1,700 operating roller coasters, not a lot of people know about the coasters here, even the major ones. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at 11 obscure coasters from China. A lot of these are going to be from more major manufacturers, but still, I hope that I can introduce you to at least one new cool ride in this country. First up is Rush out of Yulin Stronghold, and this is a very interesting coaster. This is Jinma Rides' finest work, and it really shows the direction of where this company is heading. Yes, it still is a ripoff, but it is the first of its kind, and it is a new idea being added on to a stolen concept. It uses B&M track, but has a sit-down LSM layout very reminiscent of modern-day launch coasters. Despite a couple of tall inversions, this coaster is low to the ground and speed-focused. It uses very comfortable-looking trains with seats that have nice lap bars. I don't know what makes this coaster look so good. Maybe it is just the B&M track combined with god-tier color scheme, but it just works and I love it. Next up is Phoenix Adventure. This is also a Jinma Rides creation, and a very interesting one at that. This is an indoor mine train, but it actually looks so scuffed. The seats are 4 across and have individual lap bars, which is kind of odd for a model of this type. It also has a drop track, which is a very unique gimmick, especially for a mine train. There is some really cool rock work around the coaster with features like a waterfall, so overall it is just a really weird coaster. The red and yellow color scheme does not help it at all either, and as for ride experience, it is a relatively mild mine train, but the gimmicky aspect gives it all the appeal in the world. Up next is Launch Roller Coaster at Sunzhu Cultural Park. This is an absolutely massive SNS air launch coaster. Of course, you can expect a good launch, but with almost 200 feet of height to work with, this coaster packs in a serious punch. It also has a really interesting looking dive loop element, which is unique to this model. It isn't a max dive loop like the one on Max Force, but it looks interesting enough, and it is the only air launch coaster in China to feature an inversion, and there's 5 of them operating right now. This coaster almost never gets talked about because it even falls behind its Chinese counterparts of Bullet Coaster and OCT Thrust SSC 1000. I still laugh every time I read that name, but definitely it is a very interesting addition. Up next is a B&M. Now B&Ms very rarely go unseen because of how expensive they are. They almost always get built at high profile parks who can afford it, but this company does get a significant amount of business in China. So here's one that you might not have heard of. Forest Predator is a very interesting B&M wing coaster. This is a direct clone of Flying Wing Coaster at Happy Valley Chongqing. Forest Predator is at Happy Valley Nanjing. Happy Valley loves their clones just like Six Flags does. This wing coaster has a pretty good looking layout. It starts with a wing over drop and has a good collection of elements, including a vertical loop. The coolest part about this coaster though is a near miss element. You have a weird looking mouth thing and you do a corkscrew into it. It looks like an absolutely insane near miss element, and the mouth is just so funny to look at. The exterior queue theming looks great as well, and the trains have a very interesting color palette. The back row also faces backwards, so that is definitely something to try out if you are ever in China. Another B&M that not a lot of people know about is Harpy. This is located at a Sunak Land Park that I don't even want to attempt to pronounce the city name, but I will anyways, so for my Chinese viewers out there, rate 9 Chinese. Zishuangbana. Okay, that was so bad. Anyways, this park has been SBNO since 2020. They have said they were going to do a quick refurbishment, and they sort of forgot to reopen the park. I'm sure COVID played a part in that, but for now, this flyer is off limits. Anyways, this is a very interesting B&M that is very similar to the Superman clones. It's basically just an upgraded version of it. It has the same elements, but it's 30 feet taller and does a little more with the layout. For example, there's a manta-like element where you fly over the water, and that looks sick. Overall, it is just a better version of the Superman clones, and I hope it opens to the public sometime soon. Before we get to the next segment, here's a quick plug for our Discord server. We are starting to do daily questions and trivia, or you could just talk to some fellow enthusiasts, including me. I'd love to see you all there, so please join the Discord, link in the description. Next up is Time Travel. This is a pretty large Gravity Group Woody. Most larger Gravity Group Woodies are near elite coasters, except we do not get to see them too often in Western markets, as most of their additions are small scale, like Bobcat or Oscar's Wacky Taxi. Time Travel has a terrain-based layout with 2 tunnels and stands at 103 feet tall, so it definitely is on the taller side for its category. The layout itself looks like everything you would ever want in a wood coaster with some good laterals and some airtime. However, I have no clue how it rides. Reviews on Captain Coaster are very promising, saying it is quite forceful with only a slight rattle, and the best part about it, a great view. This coaster is at a very quirky park that stands with a knockoff of Coma SLC, and I definitely think it is worth checking out if you are somehow in the area. Also, there literally is no queue line, it's just air gates, so you could probably lap it for days. Another interesting wood coaster is Great Desert Rally. This is a GCI woody that looks pretty good. Besides being a modern GCI with a decent layout, this coaster is highlighted by its interactions with the nearby B&M dive coaster. A turn of flying after us in western regions takes a place in the layout of the wood coaster, which is really cool to see. You hardly ever see 2 coasters intertwine with each other, let alone a wood coaster and a steel coaster intertwine with each other. There's also great theming themed to, you guessed it, a desert. Anyways, this is a pretty solid coaster. The turnaround through the support looks like a great highlight, but to be honest, any modern GCI is worth the price of admission alone. Up next is a relatively uninteresting coaster, but that does not mean some people don't know about it. Flyover Mediterranean is an intimate megalite located at the same Happy Valley Park that we were just talking about. I feel like the GCI there is not well known, but the B&M dive coaster is just because of its wild name and color scheme. And like the GCI, the Intimate Megalite also just does not get recognition from us enthusiasts, and it definitely should. It's not even the only Intimate Megalite in China. There's another one called Megalite at a different Happy Valley Park, but I thought it would be interesting to throw into this list. Up next is Jungle Dragon. This is a new gen Vekoma coaster that I didn't even know existed until very recently. It looks like a super solid coaster that just flew under everyone's radar. The two launches make for a good ride duration, and the selection of elements seem to flow so well into each other. The first drop into the vertical loop looks amazing, and the Batwing and the Helix looks very good as well. The best part is there is theming on this coaster. All the parts of the track that are dug into the ground, which is surprisingly a lot of track, is surrounded all by rockwork. This combined with a cool looking station building is literally perfect. The plot of land is still pretty bare, but the rocks add a lot more than you think, and the station building is eye candy. Next up is Crazy Bird. This is the most unknown SNS El Loco in the entire world, probably because it is the only one in China. Anyways, there's not a whole lot special about this coaster. It uses a very traditional El Loco layout with a dial loop and an inline twist. Both these elements are used elsewhere in this model. It does boast an impressive 120-degree drop, but that's not even good for the steepest in this model. The El Loco is just too good. It is located indoors, which is also not huge news. The color scheme is also pretty normal for a Chinese coaster until you get to the trains, which is an abomination of colors that match nowhere with the theme. The bright green, orange, and blue trains look quite strange on the black and orange track, but who really cares? It is an El Loco and a half decent one at that. The last coaster we're going to talk about in this video is Unknown at Colorful World. This is another SNS air launch coaster, but it's yet to open. This coaster started construction a while ago. It first received its parts in 2018 and started getting built in 2019. It got stalled by probably COVID, and according to Google Satellite, it installed its last piece of track just last year, so it is just waiting to be ridden by riders at this point. I don't know if the bullet coaster incident has delayed this project any longer, but it should open this year. As for the coaster itself, it is a mid-size SNS air launch coaster standing at 131 feet tall. This is the second Joe Drage designed air launch, with Max Force being the only other addition, and Max Force was good, so I have faith in this coaster to be a great ride as well. So those are 11 hopefully obscure Chinese roller coasters for you. If you like this video, please comment down below for more. We have a Google Doc of like 60 other coasters we can talk about, and the list will only expand. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, link in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.